Hello everyone and welcome to this Brunel Law School webinar, Getting Ready for Undergraduate Study in London. My name's Sharon and I'll be facilitating today's webinar. I'd now like to introduce you to Dr. Pamela Nika, Lecturer in Corporate Finance and Law and the Admissions Director for our Graduate LLB Honours Conversion course. Welcome, Pamela.
Hi everyone, my name is Pamela and I will provide you with some hopefully useful information about studying law in the UK and at Brunel University London in particular, and about how to get professionally qualified as a lawyer in Canada with a qualifying law degree from the UK. So I will start the discussion by addressing the question, why study law in the UK? UK universities offer high-quality education and academic excellence with thousands of courses available for students. Actually, the UK has been a favorite destination for many decades now for over 1 million of international students from all over the world, which is mainly due to its long-standing tradition of providing high-quality education. And not surprisingly, London was rated as the 5th best student-friendly city in the world. So the standard of teaching and research at UK universities is routinely assessed and graded by official organizations to ensure that set benchmarks are met. So when it comes to law degrees obtained by UK universities, it is undisputed that these are internationally recognized, and this is due to many reasons. Firstly, the UK law system is over 900 years old and has influenced legal systems all around the world. So you will study in a country where common law originated, and common law is recognized globally, with over 1/3 of the world having a legal system based on English common law. And it also forms the basis of many countries' law system, and English commercial law is commonly the governing law in global contracts. The UK is also home to hundreds of international law firms, with some of the world's biggest firms basing their headquarters here in the UK. So you'll interact, network, and link with aspiring professionals who will be determining the future direction of countries from around the world. So another reason you may want to consider the UK for studying law is because of the simple application process. In other countries, when you're applying to study law, you must submit a law admission test. And Canada is a very good example. So that's right, the UK law school's admission process for LLB courses does not require the law school admission test score for admission. All you need for your application is your transcripts, reference letters, a personal statement, and that's it. It's that simple. Lastly, and what is more important is that the UK universities will offer you a shorter route to qualifying as a lawyer, which will save you money, time, and effort. I will come back to the qualification process and accreditation towards the end of this presentation. The next thing that I would like to discuss with you is why to choose Brunel Law School. So firstly, we are the only campus-based university in London, which means that you will benefit from the advantages of campus life, including the convenience of having everything included in one location. And most importantly, as an international student, you will have guaranteed accommodation on campus. Also, being just 45 minutes away from the City of London gives you direct access to a plethora of entertainment, education, and professional opportunities. Brunel also offers a unique learning experience, mixing real-world understanding with top-quality academic credentials. So you will be taught by leading experts in the field who are well known both nationally and internationally for their research and teaching excellence. Brunel also has the most established and award-winning placement program. The placement program offers our students with a unique opportunity to gain invaluable work experience and apply in practice what they have learned in theory. Brunel Law School offers specialized programs in law, which I will explain in detail. So we also offer a range of extracurricular programs and activities designed to enhance your skills and experience. We also offer a competitive range of scholarships. I've included here links that you can follow in order to obtain further information. So when it comes to choosing the right program for you, at Brunel, you have the choice to tailor your education. So we offer 3 law degrees, the straight LLB, so the traditional LLB, and 2 specialized LLBs. First one is LLB with International Arbitration and Commercial Law, and the second one is LLB with Criminal Justice. You also have the option to choose 1 year of a placement in any law degree of your choice. A great advantage now of choosing to study law in the UK, as opposed, let's say, to study law in Canada, is that all the UK law degrees admit high school graduates directly into a 3-year program LLB. And this is on the basis of academic status. So the de facto time period to acquire a Canadian law degree is practically 7 years, comprised of 4 years of a bachelor degree and 3 years of legal education, as opposed to the 3-year LLB degree program in the UK. Next, I will discuss with you about the graduate entry LLB program, which we offer here at Brunel, and it's a 2-year law degree program that is designed for graduates who have already obtained a degree on another subject and would like to pursue a legal career. So you may be wondering, why should I choose the graduate entry LLB program at Brunel instead of studying law in Canada? So the main reason is time. You can obtain a qualifying law degree in 2 years instead of 3 years. This also practically means that by default, you will save time and money, so thousands of dollars in educational costs. And finally, you can leverage that 3rd year into an innovative, multidisciplinary graduate LLM degree, which we do offer here at Brunel. So by now, you may already think as how the university will prepare me for the real world. This picture that I've included here is actually an indicative example of the exciting extracurricular activities that we organize here at Brunel Law School. So this picture is one of our internal mooting finals competitions in the House of Lords. And we also have a variety of extracurricular activities, which include a very active law lives, an excellent pro bono legal advice center, where the students provide legal advice to real life cases. We also offer short courses by legal professionals, including advocacy, client interviewing, and fraud examination. Quite often here at Brunel, we organize also career events, such as, for instance, the Insight Day at the GE Aviation, which was a great opportunity for students to practice their drafting skills, contract negotiation, and networking. And we also have a very successful mentoring scheme, through which our students have the opportunity to connect with legal practitioners, many of whom are Brunel alumni. There are also plenty of summer internships available in the City of London and elsewhere. We also have the Law Week, that is a full week dedicated to events that introduce our students to leading industry professionals and alumni, by also providing access to career support, industry, topical presentations, postgraduate law education options, and an insight into alternative career opportunities. We also have the Athens Refugee Projects, where the students are taken to Greece to help minors and refugees. I've included a few pictures from our events here, such as the Athens Refugee Project, the mooting and debating, the Law Week, the legal advice. There are a few pictures that you can have a look at. Our law staff and students really go the extra mile to organize and participate in activities outside of the classroom all year round. I also like to talk about the award-winning placement service that we have here, so our placement program. The students at Brunel Law School are provided again with a unique opportunity to gain real-life work experience before even graduate. So this enables them through this placement program, through this 1-year fully supervised workplace program, to apply their academic skills in practice. So how does this program work in practice? The students that are enrolled here for the 3-year program, either the specialized routes or the traditional one, after they finish their 2nd year, they go to their placement for 1 year and they come back for their final year. For the graduate entry LLB students, which is the 2-year program, They go for their placement after their first year, and then they return for their final year. Now, the benefit of taking the placement year is that the students gain real work experience from application to employment. This is fully supported by the university, and also the students get some reduced fees for this 1 year of a placement. Most of our placements are also paid, which helps with living costs and other expenses. And there is also an excellent range of work placement opportunities available, such as barristers, chambers, small, medium law firms, or even local authorities and government departments. Next, so what kind of support, what kind of student support is available here at Brunel? Brunel Law School offers excellent student support services, including law-specific study skills seminars, a dedicated tutor for law study and research skills. We also have one-to-one writing tuition, facilitation of study group from your first year of the studies here. You also will be allocated a personal tutor operating an open door policy during office hours. As a student here, you'll have access to all teaching staff outside the classroom, and of course, career support with dedicated staff who know the law market. There is also an excellent well-being and disability and dyslexia service, and also the academic skills service. And lastly, it's time to talk a bit about accreditation. So how your UK law degree will be accredited in Canada. Both the graduate entry LLB degree and the traditional LLB and the specialized degrees are qualifying law degrees both in Canada and in the UK. So an LLB degree from a fully accredited UK law school is demonstrable proof that the graduate has acquired proficiency in the fundamental competencies associated with providing legal advice in Canadian common law provinces. However, there are some specific legal principles and practices that are associated with the actual interpretation of Canadian law and the rendering of legal advice in Canada. Those practices are actually outlined in the curriculum that is referred to as the approved Canadian law degree, the FLSEC. So this has established the National Committee of Accreditation with a mandate to assess the legal education credentials of individuals that are obtained outside of Canada and to issue directives on a case-by-case basis of a learning program that a UK LLB graduate must undertake in order to obtain this certificate of qualification. When it comes to the application process, so there's a 5-step process that is involved in each NSA assessment, so the national authority. Now, you submit your application with required documentation and payment, A, and then next, the NSA will review and assess your credentials, and then you receive a notification of your assignments or deficiencies, and then you have to complete those assignments, and then finally, the NSA will issue a certificate of qualification. Now, there are 5 exams of Canadian content that all law graduates from outside of Canada must complete. It's the Foundation of Canadian Law, the Canadian Criminal Law, Canadian Constitutional Law, the Canadian Administrative Law, and the Canadian Professional Responsibility. Of course, there are also the common law core subjects, tort law, contract law, property law, business organizations. These subjects, though, are so similar between the UK and Canada that once you've passed them here in the UK, you do not need to repeat those exams in Canada. Again, as I mentioned before, each application is assessed on an individual basis by taking into account the specific elements of each applicant's educational and professional background, as this is stated in the NSA policies. Now, although each applicant is assessed individually, the UK LLB graduate with the first-class standing will normally be required to show proof of 2 years of post-secondary university education and will be assigned to write 5 Canadian specific law courses examination in order to obtain the certificate of qualification. But this is if they've obtained a 3-year LLB or a 2-year graduate senior status accelerated, so the LLB plus an LLM. Now, the holders of a 2-year LLB will typically be assigned an additional of 2 courses. So I've mentioned the first courses subjects that they have to take, plus 2 additional courses in order to satisfy the years of legal education requirements. So this was all from me. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Pamela. I'd now like to move on to our student-led section, and I'm pleased to be joined by 3 of our current students from Brunel Law School. Firstly, I'd like to introduce Sydney, who's from Canada and is currently in her final year of the graduate entry LLB honours 2-year course. First year, is that Sydney? Okay. And I'm also joined by Keegan, who is from South Africa and is in his final year of his undergraduate degree, Law with International Arbitration and Commercial Law LLB honours. I've also got a third student with me today. Her name's Nadia, and she's a second year graduate LLB student. Welcome to all 3 of you. Tell us a little about how you came to decide to come and study in the UK, some of the reasons for that, and what you were doing immediately before you came here.
So from my perspective, looking at things, I was picking between, I think at the time I just got given I just got a EU passport, and my dream was always to come to London. My plan was always to study a law degree here in the UK, and then getting obviously my EU passport allowed for that to happen sooner. So I came here straight out of high school. I was able to apply to Brunel and, thankfully got in. And then one of the first things looking at universities from overseas, thankfully unfortunately I wasn't able to get like insight as we're giving here, but I started off by looking at different rankings. Brunel ranked really highly, and I think one of the main things is got a really big international student body. Now I think it constantly ranks like really high in that terms. And I was like, okay, that would be a good way for me to integrate nicely into life in London and also life into the UK, because I'll meet a lot of other international students. But then also, particularly for me, the option of doing the international arbitration and commercial law side of things, that's what I'm wanting to pursue in a career, and that's what I'm going to be pursuing in a career. So getting that sort of accreditation, I think the international arbitration and commercial law allows you to bypass a couple of other accreditations that you'd need when it comes to the international arbitration to become qualified in that. So that's really good, and also gaining that sort of experience when I know nobody else at least university level is getting that sort of insight is really good. And then once coming here, as Sydney mentioned, I think the personal touch that's there, I think you have a lot smaller classrooms, at least from what my friends say back home. They have like 600 people in a lecture. Here is definitely not that. And the approachability from lecturers, I've spoken to a lot of other students who go to other law schools, and it's definitely not the same, where you're able to, I think today Pamela had me knock on her door about 5 or 6 times to clarify a few things for one of my pieces of coursework and writing that I needed to do. And I know for a fact that you won't be able to get that anywhere else, in at least that I've experienced. So for me, the culmination of that before here was what got me here. But then when I arrived, I was like, okay, I definitely made the right choice.
Thank you so much, Keegan. And now I'd like to pass that question on to you, Nadia.
So comparing to my friends sitting here, I'm an older student. So I'm 29. So I did the 4 years of my bachelor's in psychology and kinesiology. I have a Bachelor of Science with honors. So after graduating from university, I actually did not know what I want to do. So I decided to pursue a career in law. So I went to study paralegal degree. While I was doing that, I faced some obstacles. So let's say I'm doing a criminal case and I kept profs or other lawyers telling me you can't do this or you can't do that because you're a paralegal or you're not a lawyer. So I decided, okay, let's just do law school. But then because I was older, I thought 3 years doing law school in Canada would be a longer time. So I knew doing the LLB program in UK would be 1 less year, and that 1 less year for me was a lot. So I met with Brunel staff in Toronto and their QA sessions 2 years ago. And I attended that session. From the information they got me, all the information Dr. Pamela here gave us, I decided that I want to apply to Brunel. And I think I made a great decision. Yeah.
Great, that's wonderful to hear such nice things about Brunel. Can I go on to ask you to talk about the practical side of the experience that you've gained on your course? Have any of you done any placements? Have you done any volunteering? That sort of thing. So should we start off with Keegan? Thank you.
Yeah, so I was pretty active in my first couple of years. Now less active in terms of other things, but that's because I was able to get it all done in my first 2 years. So my first year, I got pretty much involved in everything that the law school had to offer, so like different networking events, that sort of thing that were available to students. But in terms of like actual legal work experience, I think coming at the end of my first year, based on my results and just the law school seeing that I was so active and involved and be able to make connections with external practitioners, one of our alumni from a law firm here called Blake Morgan, he contacted me and offered me, a couple of weeks worth work experience at their offices in central London, which, if you know anything about getting work experience in the legal industry in London, it's quite a challenge to get into in the first place. But I know, at least from my perspective, Brunel directly gave me that opportunity just based through me putting in hard work once I was here. I've also been involved in different volunteering aspects here. So the Brunel Advice Centre, when I was in my first year, I think I did 2 cases, under the supervision of Professor Rosen, who's a practicing solicitor advocate. So I was able to advise, and I was actually able to lead 2 teams on a pro bono thing. One was both actually dealing with contract law issues and employment contract issues, and gaining that sort of experience, at least from my perspective, I was able to say, okay, I want to do something commercially focused. That's for my side, so it cemented that. But it also gives you a bit more of like a quiet confidence in a sense of, okay, I've handled something like this. It may not be directly relevant in the future in terms of the content, but you know that you're capable of doing things. So those are the first 2 sort of aspects that I've done. But then also the law school and the law society as a whole, they provide a lot of other ways for you to gain practical experience, whether it be through debating. They run a debating competition, and they also have mooting, which is essentially like a mock trial, but not based off case facts. But you're able to stand up, present, practice, wear a robe, act like you're in a court, and present yourself as if you're in a court. I was also the Law Society president last year, so we were able to set up the negotiation competition, which is obviously running this year and will continue to run in the future. So that gives you more of I think that gives you the most practical aspect in terms of whether you're going into business or going into law, is that negotiation competition. You learn how to deal with, challenges and that sort of thing. And then outside of that, the law school and the Law Society of Partnership, for what Pamela mentioned earlier as the Law Week, where you're able to get a whole bunch more practical experience going to workshops like GA Aviation. You're able to do a commercial contract and challenge other law schools or other law students within the law school. And then there was a government legal service where you came and you did a mock, I think it was a mock judicial review. And those are just like a couple of the things just off the top of my head that I've done, also including like other things that I know Nadia and Sydney, I think, have been involved in, like the fraud examination and practical legal skills. But I think I'll leave that to them to explain and get their experience, because mine was a couple years ago. And then, I think all of that culminates in the ability to hold yourself at a higher level than if you weren't able to get involved in things. And Brunel as a whole definitely gives you that opportunity to engage. If you're putting in the effort, it's definitely noticed by the law school and by all the lecturers and by everybody involved, and that the opportunities then come to you.
Great, thank you. So I'd like to ask you actually individually, what are you passionate about in law? Is there any subject on your course that you absolutely have enjoyed that you want to talk about for a couple of minutes each?
So as I said, I've already done paralegal work. So I had back home in Canada, I had some experience in contract law, and we actually we were taking a contract law course here at Brunel, and I really love it, even though I'm not gonna say it's easy, but I'm actually loving it. And also, I was aware that we have an option of taking the evidence course next year as a third year LLB program, and I'm actually really keen towards that, to taking that next year. It's one of my favorite courses.
For me, at first, property law was terrible. The first 2 weeks, it's extremely hard. I'm not gonna lie. Property law is crazy. But then going forward, so we're at like week 20 now, 20 plus. That's my favorite course right now because the professors, they're just great at explaining everything. Professor Barnett, she's incredible. The graduate students have 4 courses per year, which is property law, criminal law, contract law, and public law. So those will be your first 4 courses as a graduate entry, and property law is the second year course. So you have a mix of first and second, which is great. Do you have Keegan?
Yeah, so I've thankfully gone through that stage. Property law was a challenge, but I think Dr. Barnett, she's really good at explaining. And we used to be a practicing barrister in property law, in land law. So she gives a very practical element, and she's really good at explaining it. And she knows that it's a tough subject, but it ends up being pretty well explained. And I've never gone through a whole year and not known a thing. But at least for me, because of what I'm wanting to go into in the future, my favorite two, not because I've got 2 of the lecturers sitting here, is company law and banking law. They genuinely are my two favorite, because if I didn't do law, I would have done something business or investment banking focus, and those incorporate that into a legal sphere. But I think also the fact that we keep it more practical, or we know the law, we understand how it it works, but then the fact that we gain a practical knowledge, for me, is the most important thing. Even no matter what subject it is, you're going to get bogged down in less interesting things, but the fact that that these, at least for me, will be specifically used in the future, for me, those 2 are my favorite. And also I think they're the most engaging in terms of what we have to do all the time. We have to, some subjects you just end up like answering questions on it. This subject, both of these, we actually have to think about it and think about the effects of what it means to companies or to banks or to the economy or whatever it is. And that's why, for me, those 2 are my favorites.
Great, thank you very much. Could I ask you next, how do you feel the course has really helped you with your future goals? I think some of you have covered that. So if you could just sort of talk, if you like, about what you might want to do and how you feel the course has really helped you.
Yeah, I'll tackle this one first. So I'm thankful to really have a job offer when I'm done here. So the subjects that I picked in my 3rd year were going to be subjects that are going to be directly relevant to my potential practice areas. So the firm that I'll be at, they specialize in like banking and company stuff. So those are some of the subjects that I picked. But then outside of that, I also did like I do intellectual property and then international arbitration. So international arbitration for me is, as an international student who potentially wants to work internationally again, it gives you at least the grounding for how the subject or the practice area works, not being obviously bogged down in one jurisdiction, but gaining the understanding as a basis is great. But then also intellectual property, because I think everything is moving to digital, moving towards that sort of world that we live in. So even if I might not practice the area, knowing an understanding of where it comes from, where it works, for me was it was definitely something I needed to do, especially with clients and that wanting to protect their intellectual properties. It's one of the biggest assets and resources moving forward, as well as what I've mentioned for banking and company.
Yeah, I just want to say that, just like Sydney said, because we are kind of newer than Keegan to this whole program, but once we started, we had no idea what each of the courses were about. But I feel like because we go to lectures 3 times a week, but then for each of our courses we have a specific seminars that are with less people in each, so we get more time to talk to our profs, ask more questions about what's going on. And just like Sydney said, we began property law having no idea of what the course is, being so scared of what's going on in the class. But then after attending so many seminars and asking personal questions and what each of us struggled from, we then decided, oh my God, property law was actually my favorite. So I feel like we're kind of new to this. We haven't taken all the courses Keegan maybe took. We don't know, but I feel like the seminars specifically, they're so helpful because you get to ask, you're so engaged in it. In lectures, you get to listen to your prof as into what it is the course is about. But in seminars, we're actually getting to be the one who's asking the question, who's getting involved, getting to know what the course is actually about, going through real life cases, what's actually happening in real life situations, which is really helpful.
Going off from that, Brunel has a practicing barrister, David Rosen, who comes in and does these, I guess they're classes. So he comes in like twice a week. And he has these 3-hour classes. So right now we're doing negotiating, fraud examination, cross-examination, and he has 20 years under his belt practicing law. So that's great to get that like practical experience.
Okay, so I'd like to ask you one final question, really, and that's more about the lifestyle and adjusting to UK life, London life. I wonder if you could just reflect on how your first week was, and then also to provide any tips that you would give to any Canadian international student coming to the UK to study law.
So I think I have a kind of different experience from Sydney because I live off campus, and then I came here so last minute, which is something I do not recommend to students coming next year. I came here on Sunday night. I had to come to class Monday morning. It was my first time in London. I cried the whole night, not knowing what I'm going into. And I'm an only child. I missed my mom, not gonna lie. But the first day I got here, actually everyone was so friendly. I felt like I've known everyone for ages, and they helped me. Even though I lived off campus, they actually helped me with my place off campus. Like they asked me if I need any reference letters for my landlord, anything I need for my home. So I feel like one thing I recommend, come here at least 2 weeks or a week before your courses start, so you get to know where your classes are, where like how the campus looks, who's your prof, this and that. But other than that, everyone's so friendly. Like you're gonna feel like it's actually a community. It's like a family here. That's my experience.
So from my side, things here are very different to what it's like in South Africa. Even simple things of like using public transport. I don't know if that's like a normal thing in Canada, but it's definitely not a normal thing in South Africa. We drive everywhere. Weather's great, like 99% of the time. So even if you are out, you're not worried about rain. I think one of the main transition factors I had to do was, embrace city living. So getting comfortable with public transport and getting comfortable with that sort of thing, because London's obviously got a great public transport network, and you can literally get anywhere. As mentioned, like 45 minutes from central London, and you can get in and around London within an hour, over an hour. I live off campus, and I live about a 25 minutes drive. And my first 2 years, I didn't have a car, so I used to commute an hour and a half in every day, and an hour and a half home every day, on top of obviously getting involved in a lot of different things. So I've become well acquainted with it, and I think that would be one of the first things I'd say that you either need to adjust or embrace is that. But once you're here, I think because of the international environment that's here at Brunel, you really can engage with people who know what you're going through, and also everybody's friendly and helpful. There's tons of different things you can get involved in. I'm pretty sure there's a Canadian society. If there's not a Canadian society, you guys can come in and start one. There's enough students that I'm pretty sure that you could start one. There's just about a society for everything. So whether you're interested in sports or non-sport related things like gaming, or if religious activities, whatever it is, there's food. There's lots of different things you can get involved in. So even if you might not get along with your flatmates, there definitely are a lot of other opportunities for you to meet like-minded people. But then outside of student life, I think one of definitely what sets it apart is the ability to engage in the law school and the law faculty and the other law students.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, well, that concludes today's talks and discussions for the webinar. We're now going to answer some of the questions that have been submitted during today's presentation. And as a reminder, you can still submit your questions via the chat box in the attendee control panel. So I think this was a question we had earlier on when Pamela was talking. Someone has asked, okay, in Canada, as a requirement, LLB graduates have to do a year articulating under a licensed lawyer prior appearing in bar exams. If someone opts for an internship option during their LLB program, would they still have to do the 1 year articulation in Canada? So I don't know who's best to answer that question.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So unfortunately, an internship won't substitute that requirement, I'm afraid. So there's certainly benefits to doing an internship here in London and getting experience and enriching your CV, etc. But that won't substitute that requirement, I'm afraid. Would you like to add anything, Sydney, to that?
No, it's mandatory.
It's mandatory.
Because I did my paralegal, I just want to add the NCA committee, they actually do look at your experience. So if you do have legal experience in any firms, either inside or outside Canada, you might have you can write one less exam. So let's say if you have 0 exams, they might give you, zero experience in any legal firm, they might give you 7 exams when writing the NCAs, compared to if you have legal exams in the UK, legal experience in the UK, you can write 6 or 5. So that helps.
Yes. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that because, as I mentioned before, it is based on NCA regulation. They actually assess the application on a case-by-case basis. So it really depends on the experience. It really depends on the length of the experience. So the rule is that there's no substitution. But if you get work experience, obviously that's going to help with your overall application. So it has to do with the length, I assume, and your expertise.
Great, that's fabulous. So thank you for that question, who have sent that in. So we want to just thank you again for joining us at the Brunel Law School, and thanks very much to all our law school contributors. If you have any further questions about studying at Brunel Law School, please do not hesitate to get in touch with us. Thank you very much.